All right, guys, it's Kevin from Horology Project with another video for you. I got a very cool, exciting watch that I'm super pumped to talk to you about today, and that is a Tudor Black Bay 58 in navy blue. Let's go ahead and just jump right in and talking about this watch. One of the things that you might remember if you've seen some of my other videos is that I've reviewed a few Tudors. I've reviewed the older 41 millimeter sized watches, so you might want to check those videos out. As well as this year, I had reviewed a Black Bay 58 in black. So why do I have this watch and why do I keep on selling Tudors? Well, there's a few answers to that question. One of them is I have a watch flipping habit where I just want to experience new watches. But a quick answer to why I got this one when I already owned the Black Bay 58 in black is I just realized that I'm not a fan of faux styling with the gilt styling and the faux patina on it. Although it wasn't overdone or anything like that, I've just found myself not connecting as much to those kinds of watches that have a real intentional look to make it look aged. And don't get me wrong, it's still a beautiful watch. I'd be happy to own it. But I really like how this watch and the Black Bay and Burgundy very much set themselves apart with a lot of other Tudor watches. And I would even go as far as to say it sets itself apart more from its big brother Rolex. Oftentimes it's easy for us to settle with a Tudor, and trust me, it's not settling at all to buy a Tudor, but maybe we want a sub and we try to think of watches that are closest to the sub, so we land somewhere with Tudor. But what's really cool about this particular Tudor is there really isn't a watch in Rolex's current lineup that is similar to this. The closest watch we've seen is the Submariner Smurf, as it's nicknamed, and that watch is a precious metal watch, so it's really inaccessible for most people out there. And so this watch is really setting itself apart a little bit more, and I like that. I really like the more modern take that this watch ends up having. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the sizing. Now, the sizing of this watch is why it is so loved. It really is the Goldilocks, as I've said before, of watches in sizing, meaning that it's really not too small and it's not too big, and most people feel that way, whether you have a 7.5-inch wrist or, like me, a 6.5-inch wrist, and you can even go smaller or bigger with this watch and enjoy it. So it has about a 47.6 millimeter across the lug of it, which is really nice size. Can't get it just right. 47.5, 47.6, around there, millimeter across the lug of it. So if I go like that, I'd probably get more accurate. Yeah. So just under 48 millimeters. And then across the width of it it's supposed to be 39 millimeters, but we'll see what my calibers say. So exactly 39 millimeters. And I always like doing the bezel as well, because sometimes these bezels overhang on the watch. And in this case, there is a slight overhang of 0.1 millimeter, but on each side. But you're honestly not going to even be able to notice that. It's pretty much 39 millimeters, so that's really not much of an overhang at all. The thickness of the watch is 11.8 is what I'm getting right here, depending on where you grab it. 12 millimeters, 11.8 millimeters, 11.7, so just under 11 millimeters, but take notice of that domed sapphire crystal. So if I were to try to grab it just underneath it, I can't really get it at its case too well, but I mean, it's a pretty thin watch. Ironically enough, even though a lot of the 41 millimeters are criticized for being very slab-sided, this still is slab-sided. So it's just that it's 12 millimeters or less that helps it, where more proportionate as it, I really think this thickness is what Tudor should have come out with in the first place. But with that being said, I actually do think it still wears thicker for a 12 millimeter watch. It's still very slim, very nice, very acceptable, but it is more slab sided. And I know a lot of people actually don't mention that, but that's just my opinion. And then, of course, 20 millimeters at the lug width. So it's going to be 19, but that's already starting to taper. So 20 millimeters at the lug width. And really, really stunning looking piece, as you can see. So let me go ahead and just talk a little bit about this watch and why I like it, why I think it's cool. I've already mentioned a few things, but they've really redesigned the look of this watch, and now it has this stunning blue. And unlike a lot of dive watches out there, it's in blue, both in the dial and the bezel. The bezel is an aluminum bezel, an anodized aluminum bezel, which means that this is more prone to scratches. However, I have yet to scratch any of my Tudor watches on the bezel itself, and that is in part because of this domed sapphire crystal, which, if you didn't know, really does help the watch out with getting knocks and dings. Since sapphire is such a strong material, it really protects the watch. Tudor elected to kind of bring back an old way of styling their cases that I'm very much a fan of, and that is creating these beautiful chamfers on the side. So it's kind of like a cut in the watch that is polished and just looks really, really beautiful and makes the watch look a little bit more elegant. So they've moved away from that with their newer watches and go for more of a sharp transition. But I really like these older styling chamfered edges. It's super beautiful. So as you can see, it's brushed or satin finish on top, with the brushing coming inward, again, like older Rolex and Tudor watches, and then a nice polishing on the sides. Now, I've said this before, I think they do a great job both brushing and polishing, but since owning my Grand Seiko, it's almost like when I see these watches and seeing the mirror finish on them, it's almost like a letdown these days, because I just got so spoiled with the Zaratsu finishing on the Grand Seiko, which, by the way, a lot of their Grand Seiko watches are cheaper than this watch. So just throwing that out there, how much value Grand Seiko has. This watch is obviously a no date with a big crown. There is no crown guard to this watch, which means that if you are someone that maybe a little bit more clumsy, or just have the type of job where you're using your hands a lot and maybe in tight spaces, it would be really easy to knock this crown. I haven't seen anybody actually do something like that, but then again, people probably aren't wearing these watches to do too many rough and tough things, which is a whole nother conversation in itself about why that's a little sad, but just is what it is. But this nice crown here is really beautiful to look at. It has a Tudor rose, which I'm pretty certain that the Tudor rose that you see here is the original logo of Tudor, and eventually I think they switched to the shield, the Tudor shield. So you get a little bit of a cross between those two things in Tudor's history. Sometimes I feel like it'd be nice to just have matching logos, so like a Tudor shield, or Tudor rose and rose. But it is nice to kind of see that rose there. And being a little OCD, I like it when my crown lines up in some way. So whether that's, horizontally or vertically, it's nice when it lines up really nice. But I know that most watch companies don't try to do that. So a rose, since it's circular, does help it a little bit with not bothering my OCD habits with that. So the watch is 70-hour power reserve with an in-house movement by Tudor. And you can check out that movement. It's pretty robust, and for the most part, even though it hasn't we haven't had years and years and years of feedback from people on the forums. It seems to be really reliable, and that makes sense because, Rolex is really building on their knowledge base of what they've been doing for decades and decades and decades. So it doesn't surprise me that this movement is performing really well. It has a 60-hour click bezel. Now, sometimes I go ahead and explain this for people that just are new to the channel or new to dive watches. What this means is you line up this outside bezel with the minute hand, and as the minute hand goes around, you can time things up to 60 minutes. So it'll go 5, 10, 15, 20, and the intention for this originally was that you would use it for diving, but most of us just time it to time our food that's in the oven or that we're cooking, or for putting our kid in timeout or silly stuff like that. Maybe you're at work and you're timing for those reasons. So most of us aren't actually timing for diving reasons, but it's still kind of fun to have. And for myself, I like kind of just rotating it just as almost a overly expensive fidget spinner. But it is really satisfying. I have to say that this bezel action is probably one of the best that I've ever experienced. I think it's better than the older 5-digit Submariners. It's definitely better than most of the older Seamasters, although the new Seamaster does have a pretty darn good bezel. This is a little grippier. My only complaint is I like it when bezels aren't flush to the case. So this bezel is pretty much flush to the case, meaning that the bezel at this edge right here doesn't overhang. So in the older Submariners, the bezel overhanged just slightly, making the case around 39 millimeters, but the bezel around 40 millimeters. And that was really nice because it made the rotation of the bezel that much easier. So don't get me wrong, this is still really, really good on the bezel rotation. It's just that's just my feedback I'm giving for this watch. There has been some complaints of the triangle not lining up well. Some people have said that they've gotten a tuner, it doesn't line up well. Mine seems to line up pretty good, so I'm grateful for that. And overall, I think it's a really good watch, and comes with a lot of other things that I haven't gotten to mention yet. One of the cool things is this clasp. It has a folding lock clasp, but as you'll notice on the inside of this clasp right here, you'll notice that the ball bearings there are ceramic. So on a lot of watches, they'll do either divots, and they'll have little bulbs right here that are just milled out of the clasp, but Tudor chose to put ceramic ball bearings. And the cool thing about that is ceramic ball bearings, and I think they're a little spring-loaded too. I don't know. Let me see. I don't know if they're spring-loaded or not, but the ceramic ball bearings nonetheless allows for it allows for it to not to wear down on the metal so much, so that it's just always nice and solid snaps. And you can trust that it's going to sound that way and perform that way for a while. This clasp and this bracelet, the solid end link, or the end links and the bracelet are solid, meaning that it is out of one ingot of metal. And that's really nice because it means that it's sturdy, and I think that would mean also that it's less prone to bracelet stretching. So the bracelet feels really, really tight on this watch. I do think these gaps can be a little smaller, but that is probably just a design preference choice. Like many people, I am not a fan of the rivets on the bracelet. My take is I actually like the bracelet a lot, and I like these end caps. I think it gives it a different look, but I'm just not crazy about the little rivets. And also, like many people say, once it's on your wrist, you don't really notice it. But it does detract a little bit from the watch. Another thing you'll notice too is instead of it having a clean taper, it has a step down taper. So it kind of drops, and then stays the same as it goes down. So instead of a clean taper, so let me show you, let me just go ahead and show you what that would look like with a different watch. So this is another new watch that I'll be reviewing soon, but this is the older reference 36 millimeter Rolex Explorer 112470. And this bracelet is a hollowed bracelet, so it's a little lighter, doesn't feel as solid as the Tudor. The Tudor's feels way more solid both at the bracelet and the clasp. It just feels like a heavier, more sturdy, more solid watch. It feels like this watch can kick this watch's butt, although this is my favorite watch right now. But you'll see that the taper on it is not stepped down at all, that it's a very, very beautiful, flush taper versus this taper being more stepped down, if that makes sense. But it gives it a little bit of a different look, differentiates a little bit. I'm just not crazy about the rivets themselves here, especially since they serve no purpose and it's not a real rivet. So I wish they would just kind of take these away, leave the end caps, and keep the step look, and then I'd be a happy camper. And I know a lot of other people would be as well. But what's really cool about this Tudor, and why I even have my Rolex Explorer here, is I feel like, for me at least, they're kind of similar. They're both just gorgeous three-hand, simple watches that are reliable, that you can count on. Albeit this Explorer is much more versatile and has really cemented itself in the watch world. This Tudor is really great, and you can do a lot worse than buying this Tudor. Something that I said in the video of my original 58 that I did a review on, and I'll say it again, it does feel like Rolex is limiting in some ways just how far they'll go with this watch. So what I mean by that is, instead of it having a 120 click bezel, it has a 60 click bezel. Instead of them putting some form of quick adjustment, they leave you only 3 micro adjustments. It feels like there are certain things that are definitely intentional by Tudor to not allow this watch to ultimately compete with a Submariner, but nevertheless, at less than half of the price of a Submariner, you're really getting one heck of a watch. And like I said, you can do a lot worse. This is beautiful, beautiful watch that really, anybody should be proud of having on their wrist, especially this blue version that just proves to be a little bit more unique, in my opinion, and very beautiful. So last up, we will finish this review with a quick wrist shot. And I'm going to go ahead as well and show you what it looks like on my wrist. So 6.5-inch wrist. And remember, this camera is zoomed all the way in. So even though it is smaller at 39 millimeters, it does still have nearly a 48 millimeter lug to lug, which is about the same as most Submariners. So it just looks really great though, doesn't it? Beautiful. So just kind of show you real quick with my black light what the lume looks like. It is daylight, but it should still make its way in the camera. So a really, really nice green glow. And the green glow does seem to be a little bit different from what this is. So this is super luminova on this. Similar, but a little different. Just a little different. It just seems a little bit more like green turquoise, so like a greenish blue, versus this standard super luminova. But you know what? They might be the same. It could just be because the dials are different. But it looks great. Overall, great watch. Definitely give it a thumbs up. And really think that if you're looking for something that has more of a classic look, very traditional looking, blue diver, then man, this is a great piece to get. If you do have a little bit of a bigger wrist though, and if you have just a slightly bigger budget, and I'm just talking about slightly bigger budget, then the Omega Seamaster, the new 300M, blows this thing out of the water. No comparison for me. But again, this has the style, the sizing, and the look that many of us love when thinking about a diver. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you've made it all through the 20 plus minutes that I've been talking, thank you for doing that. If you like the video, hit a thumbs up. As always, subscribe to the channel. And I have a question for each of you that are still viewing. What is your favorite Tudor Black Bay 58? Are you interested in the blue or the black? And why is it that you like the blue or the black version? All right, guys, well, I will catch you in the next video. I'll be planning on doing a review of this beauty right here. And I have still yet to do a review on my Speedmaster. Doesn't that make a cool trio? So that is going to be coming up hopefully shortly. Hope you guys have an awesome 2021, and we'll catch you in the next one.